But you've got to give the police a little bit of time to deal with it, and we know they won't. Because they've already proven what they'll do in Derby. When they're finally pushed, they do something, they arrest 2 instead of dozens. And they let all the others walk. And they give them the opportunity, they know who they are, they give them the opportunity to stop what the hell for. They've committed some of the most vile crimes that you can possibly imagine. They should be in prison. They let them off. So they'll carry on letting them off. So we know we'll let them off. Then at that stage, we take it up the next gear. And that's going to be primarily video cameras, mobile phones, taking pictures, because again the Muslims have done this in various parts of the country where they've got a red light district run by West Indians that they look down on near their areas. They clear them out, mainly by going along and taking pictures of all the middle-aged businessmen who are up and down curb crawling, and then putting pictures up on the lampposts, and by tracking down the names and addresses from the car number, which is very, very easy to do. We'll have that capability. Well, the friends of ours will, strictly it's illegal. So friends of ours will. And then they write to their wives, say, do you know that Gerald was, hope there's no Gerald in the audience, do you know that Gerald was curb crawling last night? You know, think about it and so on. And they've stopped that. Every time their community has dealt with that, the police have said, this is really a very good thing. They're doing something thoroughly decent here, we approve. It's a bit extra, you're not quite us, but yeah, it's fair enough. So we're going to do it to them. We're going to do it to them for a start. And if they won't respond to that shame, and if their community won't wake up and smell the coffee and realise that they need to stop this before all their community gets into really serious trouble, then we'll take it up to the next stage. And the next stage will be where they're parked outside schools. We will have people, will go up, and we'll talk to them about it. We'll have quite big groups of people. We'll go up and talk to them about it. And if they don't get the hints, then they will be persuaded to leave. And I think that needs doing. That is a greater degree of militancy than this party has shown in the past. But there comes a point when some things are so bad, they're so evil in what this is, that if the authorities refuse to do it, then you don't just have the right to do something about it yourself, you have the duty to do something about it yourself. Frankly, we shouldn't have to do it. The dads should have done it years ago. The local community should have done it years ago. Except for the fact that we don't have a community anymore. Because it's been ruined and deliberately smashed up in many ways by our ruling elite. And many of these poor kids, they don't have dads. At least in the conventional sense of the words. Because they come from broken homes. They come from a smashed up community where they might know who the dad is, but they don't see him. And the fellow who might be with the mum now, well, he's not particularly interested in that particular daughter, because it's not natural, really, for stepdads to be particularly interested in their stepchildren, because genetically, what's screaming out to them is it's your kids you've got to look after. So these kids are extraordinarily vulnerable, and our society is particularly atomised and broken up, and our community has lost its sense of cohesion. And you're told for years and years, and especially young white lads, English lads, are told in schools, if you even think about your country in a patriotic way, anything other than football, you're some kind of racist, Nazi, fascist bigot, and you want to murder millions of Jews. And then it's been deliberately put into kids' heads and everybody's heads that if you make any complaint about any wrongdoing by any member of the ethnic minority, you're not actually complaining about the problem, you're just using an excuse for racism, which is the most evil crime on the entire planet, as we know. So our people have been left defenceless against this, but they don't like it, they're not happy. Most of all, our people don't have any leadership anymore. It's when your ruling elite abdicates its leadership, when it's only interested in money and in self-interest and an easy life, and carrying out its fantasy social engineering projects, when the ruling elite gives up, ordinary people don't have a leadership. And at that stage, ordinary people have to provide the leadership to ordinary communities. And there's nobody else who's going to do it except for us. And over the last few years, we've been concentrating on elections, and that's good and proper for a political party. But we have to be much more than a political party. We are a movement of national salvation. because otherwise this country is finished. Our people is finished. Our civilisation is finished. This is the last generation that can turn it round. And we can turn it round, but not only by thinking narrow-minded, we're a political party. Yes, we are, but we're much more than a political party. And one of the things we are is essentially a school. We're a school to bring back, street by street, community by community, that sense of family, that sense of being together and having to act together, and responsibility, not for your own, only for your own actions, but also responsibility for your community. Those feelings that have been drummed out of our people, we have to bring them back. And you can't bring them back by writing about it on a website, or in a newspaper, or even by talking about it in a meeting. I'm not talking about this just for you. I'm talking about it because we've got to go out and do these things out there. We've got to actually provide community leadership because nobody else is going to do it. But there's this vacuum. And that's where I want to conclude. Is this the exciting thing? That people out there are furious or scared or angry with the cuts, with the grooming, with everything that's going wrong in this country. They want leadership. Most of all, they want people to stand up and say, look, this is what you do about it. That's all they need. I know that. I've talked, I've worked with, we've experimented in a few places, and then we've got sidetracked with the grooming issue up in Keighley, in Bradford, in Blackburn and so on. And the mums and the dads as well do want to do something, they just don't quite know what. And it was impossible for us until recently to take it any further because the number of people who knew about it was so small that even if they'd taken action, other people have thought, what the hell is going on here? But now everybody knows it. And what's going on here is, happens every time, just before a corrupt ruling elite falls, whether we saw it in 1989, just before the Soviet bloc collapsed. This was a brutal tyranny that murdered millions and millions of people. You know, we sometimes get thrown out of a pub. We sometimes get someone shouting at you when you're putting a leaflet through their door. That's the worst we face. If you're a dissident in the Soviet Union, you got a bullet in the back of the head. And that was the point when you were actually pleased, finally, to get a bullet in the back of the head. That's how brutal that was. The Soviet Union collapsed, and you could see it collapsing because their ruling elite lost its nerve and they got soft. And they didn't dare in the end to suppress people. And in its own little way, you can see that happening in Britain as well. You can see it happening in Derby with the grooming. That for years they thought we can brush it under the carpet, we can pretend it's not going on, people won't notice, people won't care, nothing will happen. And it's reached such a stage they've had to take action. And at that point they're extraordinarily vulnerable. Because they've told everyone in Derby now that this is a crime which is unacceptable and it must be stopped. And now they won't deliver on that. They'll do a bit, but they'll walk away. So before, we couldn't really mobilise on this issue and expect the fact because people didn't know it was a crime, or they weren't even sure it was going on, or they thought, well, nothing can or should be done about it. And the ruling elite's been sufficiently worried and nervous that they've done a bit about it. They've opened the door. From their point of view, they've opened Pandora's box, which in mythology is Pandora was told, don't open the box, because all the evils of the world will leap out by the gods, the Greek gods who gave her the box. So of course she opened the box and all the evils come out. That's what they've just done, because they've opened the Pandora's box by allowing people to talk about grooming, by making realise people something should be done about it. So it's going to be a really major issue for the British National Party all over the country in the months and the years ahead. And it's going to be a really major issue here in Derby. And it's going to be something which every single, you might not think it's much if we can send one carload on their way. But that victory for our community will make them more confident to think, yeah, we don't have to sit and take it as our masters abuse us and spit on us and tax us to death. We can actually stand up and fight. And we are going to fight on behalf of the British people. And as we lead them, believe you me, the British people are going to come and fight with us as well. And together,